Welcome back to the whole home and to our little kitchen where we're going to spend the week together looking at everything our family of 5 eats in a week on a tighter budget while also trying to be as sustainable as we can. If you're new here, I'm Kezia, and my goal on the internet is to make lower footprint, sustainable living feel a little less complicated and a bit more budget friendly. And that so applies to food and what we eat. We are trying to stick to a budget, but also make choices that think about people and planet more as we shop. Numbers wise, our budget is £500 for a family of 5 for the month. So that breaks down to about 125 each week. And each meal, which I break it down to as well, because it helps me to think about how much we're spending, needs to be about £6 on average for a family of 5. And so to feed 5 of us on that budget in the south of England is a stretch. But as much as we can in any place that we are privileged enough to have a budget to spend, we want to try and use it not just to take care of ourselves, but to make choices as much as we can that are thinking about how our consuming is impacting people in the production of our food, the farmers, the people picking and growing different things, and also the planet. And there are so many different ways that this plays out in what we eat. And I will talk about it as we walk through the 21 meals that we eat in a week and what they look like. But there is no one size fits all. We all get to do what we can with the budget, the time, the different things that we have in our kitchen. And the way we eat is by no means perfect, but that's not the point. There are some amazing things that we can do in the way that we eat to be more sustainable, but also to stay on budget. And everyone's in different places in the world. Food costs different things. Everyone has different preferences and values and norms. But my hope is that in showing you what this looks like in our kitchen, maybe there's something to take away in what it can look like. Some different tips, tricks, ways of doing things that we use here in our home that can help you if you are also trying to eat on a budget and be a little bit more sustainable while you do it. But let's dive into what our family of 5 ate in a week. Welcome to a very real life Wednesday morning in our kitchen. This is when our meal plan for the week starts because Wednesday is when our veg box arrives, so it works nicely. Plus, I don't like starting a meal plan on a Monday. It just feels like too much for my brain. So this is the beginning of our week. The kids are headed to school this morning. They don't go in every day because we flexi school, but today is an up and out day, which means usually in our house it's toast and homemade granola or yogurt. But the kids saw Weetabix and asked for those when they were shopping with me, so some of them are having those this morning. And then coffee for grown-ups, which we do weigh out just because then we make exactly what we need and drink all of what we make, and no food or money goes to waste, which is a big value in our home for staying on budget and sustainability. We don't keep a huge pantry full of stuff. We have a small house and kitchen, so it just doesn't feel like the easiest thing to do. But I have had this Ossa gelatin sitting for honestly years, and I wanted to just use it up. So I have been making a kind of set yogurt by dissolving the gelatin and whisking it with cocoa and yogurt. And it is actually weirdly delicious. So that was my breakfast this morning. Our trusty meal plan sits up in the kitchen all week so that the kids can see it, they know what's coming up, and we know what prep tasks need doing. We usually will make it as a family, and then I love that it just guides us through the week and honestly takes off a huge mental load. Once it's done, we just follow it and we know we're going to stick to the plan. Now the yogurt is set and we are out for the day. Alongside our veg box, we will usually hit a supermarket for the bits that we can only get there, and then our local bulk shop. I love doing as much as we can of our bulk dry goods from a small, independent, female-owned business. That's all part of the sustainability piece for me, and we just do what we can on the budget we have, but it always amazes me how much we can do still on a lower than average budget. However, it takes a juggle, which is why we do the meal plan and then shop exactly what we need to make the meals on the meal plan. So there's flexibility. We can move things around in the week or put a different veg with a different meal. But once we've made the meal plan, we really do just stick to those meals, and then we know that the food we've bought will cover the meals that we've planned for the week, and it all dovetails and really is the only way that we can make it work on that budget, but it does then work. Once we had shopped, it was time for lunch, and this is actually a short that I filmed, but I had given a pumpkin to a mum at school on a play date months ago, and today she met me in the school car park with some jars of soup that she had made from the pumpkin. It was so good. I asked her for the recipe and I will note that below, but that was fun to get the pumpkin back in a different form. And then there were just 2 other people at home, and they had some fried eggs and leftover potatoes and kale. In the evening, we were celebrating an achievement of one of the kids, just something small, but that was a big deal to them. And so we celebrated with some ice cream and a simple chocolate sauce made from melted coconut oil, honey, and fair trade cocoa. Cocoa and chocolate is an ingredient where we either want to know that it's fairly traded and people have been taken care of in its production, or we will just skip it. So often there are things that cost more on the journey of sustainability, and sometimes we just have to say if we can't do it the way that we need to do it, then we're not going to do it at all. And for us, cocoa is one of those ingredients. Avocados are another, and so we barely ever have avocados on the meal plan. And then after ice cream, we made mac and cheese for dinner. Tonight we're adding zucchini, courgette, and broccoli to the mac and cheese, but in some form it's on the meal plan every week because it fits the budget, everyone loves it, and it is an easy win. We can do it with different ingredients, different ways. Tonight we've got whole wheat spaghetti, and that will be dinner tomorrow night as well. On this day, I woke up to my son making pancakes and my daughter pouring us cups of French press coffee. And these are new skills that honestly I am so here for. Usually we are up before the kids, but being woken up to pancakes and coffee, and also on this day they made blood orange segments and greeted us with our cups of coffee, it was the best. We topped them with yogurt and the leftover chocolate sauce, and that was breakfast. Thursdays are slower days along with Fridays because no one has to leave anywhere in the morning, and so the kids play. I got some food prep done. I found this clearance chicken and roasted it ahead for a soup. It does mean that we have a bit more time for food prep tasks, which is a luxury and also honestly makes us a little more inefficient. I think we would batch cook a lot more at the weekend if we didn't have these pockets through the week, but we kind of just get little bits done here and there as we go because we are home. While the kids did a bit of independent work, I popped in and did a couple of tasks for 10 minutes. I pulled out that chicken, which is going to be chicken noodle soup, and then started on some sourdough. I do not like being religious to the rules of sourdough and timings and have my life revolve around that. It has to fit around our life, which sometimes feels a bit hectic. And I have a full video that is a week in the life of our sourdough starter with how we actually make it work without being ruled by the timing. So we're getting that done here. And then lunch is yesterday's leftover pasta, and then I'm making a quick carrot slaw. So we've got whole wheat spaghetti, courgette, broccoli, and then carrots on the side. I often talk about how not snacking is a big part of how we eat in our home, and everyone's just used to that, and it really works for us and helps everyone come to the meal hungry. But it doesn't mean that we don't sometimes have an organized, intentional snack time. And pretty much every day, whether it's at the end of school or after quiet time when the kids are home, we always do an hour of quiet time when the kids are at home, we will usually have some kind of snack. Today we made some fruit and nut butter on a plate, and also some little chocolate bites. Actually, the chocolate bites were the grown-up one and the fruit and nut butter was the kid one. We had different things, but that was our intentional come together snack moment of the day. So we don't do the continual snacking and snack foods and things here and there. The kids know that coming and saying I want food is always just gonna mean we talk about what the next meal is, but we do sometimes have an intentional extra food moment in the day. Tonight's dinner is chicken noodle soup. So I'm quickly making some noodles, which are very simple to make from scratch, and the kids love rolling out and throwing into the soup. Because I've strung together all the prep moments from one week, it looks like I just spend my life in the kitchen, which in reality is not true. It's a little bit here and there, but we don't do any heavy prep meals because it's just not what we want to do with our time. When we do make a meal though, we always try and make sure it's making more than one meal so we can put one in the freezer or have one the next day to just be efficient with our time. I am the one who does most of the making meals, which is something I've never talked about in these videos. I really don't believe in traditional gender roles being the right way to live. And it's something we've really tried to unpack and break down in our family. But I realize here I am showing me being the mom doing most of the cooking. In this phase of life, I am the 9-to-5 parent. And so when 5 o'clock rolls around, we've talked about this, and I would actually way rather my husband jumped in with cleaning, doing the dishes, getting the kids' homework done, or playing with the kids, so I cannot do that. And so this is the way it works best for us now. This was another get up and go day. I made the same gelatin mix. We are working through that bag of gelatin, and I'm actually loving the little yogurt thing that it makes. Other people had toast, Weetabix, and then for lunch we circled back really quickly to the chicken noodle soup and finished it off. That cook once, eat at least twice method that really helps us in terms of cooking time. We do various different soups and meals from chicken carcasses, which are a really budget-friendly way to get meat into your diet if you want it. My family do just like meat, so we add it in about once a week, and this is a really budget-friendly way to do it. After a meaty lunch, we had a more plant-based dinner, and this was my son's request. Usually we will sit down and make the meal plan together, and I'll try and hear what everyone is wanting to see on the meal plan. Some weeks people don't care, other weeks they do, and everyone knows that they can't pick every meal. Not everything fits in the budget or on the meal plan unless it's our birthday, and then a birthday tradition is to pick the 3 meals for the day if it is your birthday. But otherwise I try and listen to a couple of things they want from the week and work them in so that everyone feels heard and like they're involved. It helps with buy-in and helps them embrace when there are things they don't get to have if they also feel like they're being heard and listened to in terms of what we are eating. So tonight it's a really simple red pasta with lentils to up the protein. They are so high in protein and we all love them. I think the French puy lentils have a bit more flavor, so they're more expensive, but they're the ones that we tend to do because they're just more yummy. Most of the eggs that we eat come from our backyard ducks. I love bringing that part of the food that we eat really close to home and knowing the exact process and having the kids see it and be a part of the responsibility of knowing where their food comes from and taking part in it. And this morning we are using those eggs to make some sourdough waffles. I do not believe in sourdough discard. Nothing should be discarded. Food waste is far too much of an issue. So we keep quite a small starter. I don't build up tons of discard that we've got to figure out what to do with. But when we do have some, it usually goes in waffles or pancakes. So that's what we're doing this morning. Eggs, sourdough starter or discard, some honey, melted butter, flour, and that is our waffles. Then it is a football match morning, so I'm sending some yogurt and raisins for after the game, and then kids bring all kinds of sugary snacks, which I do think helps them keep going through the game. So we're doing some chocolate. We bought some fair trade milk and dark chocolate for the week, so we're doing some chocolate chunks and raisins in that little reusable Ziploc, and he is off to a football match. One of our favorite weekend meals is to have bagels and then fry eggs and get some greens from the garden and make breakfast sandwiches in bagels. So I made some sourdough bagel dough last night and it has proofed through the night. And then the kids love making them in the morning, so it feels like a sweet weekend tradition. We don't do it every weekend, but maybe every other weekend we will make a batch of bagels. This is going to make about 20 bagels. And since my last What We Ate in a Week video, we have got a new fridge. Our old fridge had no freezer space. I mean, enough for about a tub of ice cream, so I couldn't prep anything ahead, which meant we were so much less efficient with food prep. We couldn't save stuff in the same way, so we just had to eat leftovers much faster. But now we can throw leftover bagels in the freezer, which feels like such a luxury to get to do. We make all of our own bread products, bagels, loaves of bread, tortillas, wraps, all of those kinds of things, predominantly because it saves us so much money on our food bill. We get to choose exactly what goes in them, and then the cost of making them, even when you include energy, is so far below buying a comparable product from the shops. It does take a bit more time, and so if I had less time, I would definitely do much more batch cooking, because I made about 20 bagels here, but the time it would take to make 40 or 60 and freeze them is really not that much more. I love getting to do it with the kids. It's a fun weekend routine, but there are definitely ways we could be more efficient with our time if we wanted to make things from scratch, but also be more efficient with our time. And then we turned them into breakfast bagels and got a bad egg. Look at this one. I have never had a bad egg in years of keeping chickens and ducks, and I didn't want to waste the good one, so I slipped the bad one out and then fried the rest instead of poaching them. And then this was lunch, some rocket from the garden, which we've actually managed to keep year round this year, which made me really happy with the greenhouse. So that was lunch, and then we whipped up some quick cookies with sunflower seeds and the dark chocolate and different things to eat through the week. In our home, Saturday night is always pizza. We make a big batch of sourdough dough the day before, so it's sitting and ready, and then whatever we're doing on the day, we can just come home and throw the dough in and make pizza really easily. A simple sauce, passata, butter, salt, garlic, and then we'll throw different things on top through different seasons or use what we have, but it is always pizza. We don't really have anything growing in the garden right now apart from that rocket, but my daughter grabbed some of that and we had a really simple breakfast, and then lunch we had with my parents. Tomorrow is my birthday, and so my mom made lunch for us and my brother, who it's also his birthday week, so we had a family celebration and my mom cooked, which was really kind and sent us home with some leftovers. So tonight we are just making dinner, and that is a leftovers meal. We do a leftovers meal, at least one, scheduled into the meal plan every week to make sure we are using up every last bite of food. It might sometimes be a bit of an odd meal, or different people eat different things, but food waste is one of the biggest ways, or avoiding food waste is one of the biggest ways we can be sustainable in our kitchens. 1/3 of the food produced globally is wasted, which is a stat I always feel like I second guess as I say. It's hard to believe. And that is from where it is grown all the way through to our kitchens, but a big proportion is in our kitchens. So we really work to make sure that with planning and the way that we eat and doing leftovers meals, we are playing into wasting nothing. So tonight is leftover pasta that honestly didn't look that appealing at this point, but the kids know we eat everything we have. So that was dinner, along with some leftover pizza dough, which I topped with more of the lentils, tomato sauce, and cheese into a kind of lentil flatbread pizza thing. Not every meal has a name. Sometimes it's just things thrown together and it is what it is. But it's good food and we celebrate it. After the kids were in bed, my husband and I took it in turns folding the sourdough. Some weeks I feel like we don't make bread for days. Other weeks my kids will get in the kitchen. They'll now make a simple yeast loaf. And other weeks we are turning some kind of sourdough every day. But because it doesn't feel like standing in the kitchen for a long time, we just don't mind. It's just setting an alarm and popping in every 30 minutes to do a quick fold and then go back to whatever we're doing. So tonight I have got my frownies on my head. You can see, I will explain in the caption what those are, but this is real life and this is what it looks like. Getting ready for bed, throwing some bread to proof overnight, and we are done for the day. This day started with pastries, which we baked at home. We did not make these. We have a bulk shop locally where we can get package-free bake-at-home pastries, so my husband grabbed some of those. We try and do as little plastic packaging as we can, and when we do, we recycle it through our veg box. They take plastic and actually recycle it. It is traceable recycling, which I love. Then we baked the sourdough that had been proofing overnight to take to brunch. This was my birthday, and so a couple of my friends organized a little brunch. The kids were all off school. They made pancakes and chocolate spread and mimosas, and it was the perfect start to the kids being off school and my birthday. When we got home, the kids had said they were going to make me a birthday cake. We do cake for every birthday. It's a key part of birthdays in our house, and they did a chocolate cake with dark chocolate and cream ganache. I did not get a picture of the cake. It was not the prettiest cake in the world, but it was delicious.
It is rare that we buy something pre-made, not because we're against that, but just because it is cheaper to make things from scratch. It works better on our budget. But these Plant Living burgers were on clearance, and so we grabbed a few, and they were a little spicy for some of the kids, but honestly a hit and very budget friendly, having been on clearance. So that was dinner. In the last couple of days of the meal plan, I'm usually assessing what we have left, if the meals we planned are going to work, or how we need to adjust to get through the last couple of days. But this week, I knew we were going to be able to cover an extra few days with the food that we had. So we started with toast for breakfast and then had some apples and peanut butter. And then for lunch, we made a butternut squash curry soup, which was very delicious. I based it off the recipe from the friend who had brought me the pumpkin soup, and there was some cream left over from making the ganache, so we threw that in with some garam masala and curry powder, and it made a very good soup that we will definitely be adding to the rotation. We just ate that with sourdough toast for a simple meal. I blended it. This is my favorite kitchen tool. It's the whisk that I've been using in the mornings, and it also has an immersion blender attachment. I find it so useful. It was a birthday present a couple of years ago for my mom, and I adore it. And for the final meal, it was leftovers. We had some leftover bean burgers, and then my mom had sent us home really kindly with leftovers of the lunch she made, which was a high protein noodle stir fry dish. So that was the final meal of the meal plan.
And that is a wrap on the week. We did have some food left over, and so we were able to eat for another day on what we had spent and bought that week. And then we dived into the next meal plan, the next food shop, and it goes round and round. But I hope that that was helpful to see. Drop any questions below and we can talk about them. If you want to keep watching, here I have put a week in the life of our sourdough starter with my more loose approach to how we make sourdough work, so it doesn't rule our lives, but we still get to eat yummy, budget-friendly bread. And if you want to see how we apply these same principles in other places in our lives, this is a story about how 2 years ago we stopped buying new clothes and why we did it and what that has been like for our family. And you can, of course, hit follow, and I will see you in another video sometime soon. Thanks for joining.